and welcome to our first ever properly professionally recorded property pod. I'm Jo and I'm joined by Libby.
Hello.
And today we actually have a professional in, which is nice, and no seagulls, which is again another bonus. And this is Jo from Jospeh Property.
How you doing?
And we're going to be discussing the property market in 2021. Obviously, with COVID, things have been a bit challenging. We've had the stamp duty holiday, so we're just going to have a brief sort of discussion about that, and also a wider discussion about the property market this year. So before we continue, it'd be really great, now we're on YouTube and we're launching this more professionally, if you could like and subscribe to get more content about property law in general. So Attwells Solicitors, we're a law firm in Ipswich and in Colchester, London. We do obviously property law conveyancing mainly, but we also do a lot of additional work such as employment law, commercial business, all those types of things. So we do have a range of videos that actually cover various topics, not just property and conveyancing. So please do go and check those out as well. So we're going to start now. I don't know how this really professionally works, but we're going to go over to Libby. He's going to ask some questions, and then Jo's going to answer them. I'm just here to chip in, really. That's basically my job for the day. It's just a chip in. Excellent. Okay, you ready?
Yeah. So Jo, tell us a bit about Jospeh Property Agency.
Yeah, so we started on 1st of October last year. I've been doing it 16 years.
Wow.
So quite a while.
Yeah.
But no, we do sales, lettings, new homes development.
Okay.
We kind of opened up to be a bit more transparent in the property business. I think sometimes it can get a little bit overcomplicated.
Yeah, definitely.
So we like to use local independent solicitors, referrals, as well as surveyors.
Yeah.
Keep everything kind of a little bit more simple. And then we utilise as much technology as possible.
Okay.
So COVID's kind of massively advanced technology for us. So we can work from home, we can work in the office, we can be open 7 days a week on the phones, emails to our phones. So for us, communication was just really, really important for our clients.
Okay, great. And how much have house prices increased locally, and why do you think that is?
It's a good one. To be fair, Rightmove come out and say nationally it's like 9.5%. Zoopla came out with one today, I think saying 4.5%. So kind of a little bit differences. But I mean, in Ipswich, demand for homes is just really high at the moment. I mean, the stats show that we've got more buyers than our home by 44% compared to last year. So I would say an average would be 8 to 10% in the last year, but we've seen the majority of that probably in the first 3 months of this year.
Yeah, I suppose with everyone moving from London and stuff, I think there's been a lot of rush from the city compared to...
Yeah, there has. I'd say it's probably more commuter market. I think everyone says London as expect them to move out of the city and the flats, but I think from our perspective, we're getting kind of the commuters from Chelmsford, the commuters from Ingatestone, Shenfield, coming up to the Essex, Suffolk borders. And I think that's only because they're travelling now kind of 2-3 days a week, rather than the full 5 days. So whereby I wanted to be 30 minutes, 40 minutes, you're thinking, well, actually, if I'm only doing 1 or 2 or 3 days, do you know what, I can move to Suffolk where I can get a hell of a lot more money, property for my money, and only having to commute kind of 2-3 days a week. So we've kind of seen that kind of influx in.
How are you finding the people's needs? Because I can imagine people are wanting more gardens and home offices and all that.
Yeah, they are, to be honest with you. I mean, I've never seen so many home studies since I've come back. Everyone's got either their bedroom or downstairs, and if you look at kind of criteria, it's I want a bigger garden to be able to put one of those new home studios in, or I've got, I need more space kind of downstairs, so a separate reception room, so people using the dining room and things like that, and having a proper kind of home setup.
Oh, great. And do you think the house prices rising will continue or sort of drop off?
Personally, I think we've seen kind of the major increase. I mean, if I look at kind of previous years as a whole, in an amazing year, you'd see like a 10% growth in a year. We've kind of seen that over such a short period, and that's due just to the complete lack of stock. So for me, I think we will see a small increase, but it won't be as drastic as it has been. I don't think we'll see a decrease.
Yeah. Okay, great. And are people purchasing now buying at the top of the market, do you think?
In today's market, definitely.
Yeah.
In a rising market, every time you buy, you're at the peak, but it will get overtaken. I mean, there's a stat today by the Telegraph this morning that came out, and essentially they're predicting that prices won't decrease. There's not enough stock for prices to decrease. We're still in a fear of missing out culture. So as soon as a property comes to the market, everyone's on it. You get 10 to 20 viewings every single property that comes on the market at the right price. So unless we suddenly see a massive increase of homes coming on, we're not going to see any depreciation.
Okay. And what do you think people are looking for in property in 2021?
Mixture. I think what I call midway house. So you're either looking for a refurbishment project completely, or you're looking for something in amazing condition, like a nice new build. The kind of in between these days is actually much harder to sell. So people are happier to pay more money and increase their mortgage amount, because mortgage rates are really, really low at the moment, and probably buy something that's in immaculate condition, that's got that most amazing kitchen, bifolding doors. People really want an in and out feel. So the kitchen is absolutely imperative. You know, if you've got an open plan kitchen with a bifold doors looking into a south facing garden, that's the sort of thing that people are really kind of eating up at the moment, because they're spending a lot more time at home.
Yeah, more space. Everyone wants more space nowadays. Yeah. Okay. And is there a big do you think COVID and the steps taken by the government has assisted you as an estate agent?
Yeah, I mean, in our sector, definitely. I mean, everyone was worried when the first kind of lockdown hit in the first 3 months. I think there was a bit of uncertain times in terms of were we allowed back, when we allowed back, how long will it last for. I mean, we opened up on the 1st of October during that kind of better period. We kind of took the view that the government took the natural steps that would continue, whereby as long as we used the correct PPE, as long as we took the right guidance, that we could still safely show people around homes. And for that's meant that property market's open. The economy's still kind of spinning on that basis. So I think, the government's done a good job for us. Not for other sectors, I can't comment for that, but certainly for the property market, we've continued.
Yeah, okay.
I think there was like a bit, I can remember lockdown and going into the office and just being like, what is going to happen? And that stayed for about 3 to 4 weeks, and then it just slowly, people like, actually, well, we've still got to move, we're still contract bound, and all these elements started to bring back the property market. It feels like our sector's been quite resilient in this time, obviously helped by the government, but it has been. How are you finding, because there was a lot of things in our inner circle about what's post-June going to look like. How are you finding that?
Well, after stamp?
Yeah.
Stamp duty was I suppose a bit of a spur for some people to kind of get on with it. So we did see a little bit more movement. I don't see it slowing down. I really don't. Not from a buyer's perspective. I think we've just seen less houses coming onto the market, and it's just meant there's so much more pent-up demand from COVID. I don't think personally stamp duty is going to have a massive change on the market, so to speak. Most of it's led by mortgage rates, most of it's led by how expensive something is. There's a great saving, so I think it's given that ability. You know, if you're selling in January, February, everyone wants to take advantage, and if you're buying at 500, you're saving 15,000. So there was a lot of kind of, I want to get things through, but I don't know if it was the absolute spur for someone to want to make the move. It's just a good to have a saving.
Yeah, so it's positive. I find that at the moment, one of our main jobs is educating people about the phase out, because they don't realise. I think it's like a cut-off period. And it's like, no, it's a phase out. Have you found that as well with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an element of lack of knowledge and there's a bit of panic. I think what stamp duty probably causes a panic. You know, especially when you guys, I don't know how you can cope in the last couple of weeks. It's been bad in some cases. I think managing expectation early on was really, really important. So I think what we try to do with some of our clients is kind of manage expectation and say, look, you've only sold a few weeks ago, getting it through might not happen. Just as a safety net and precautions, just have something in the back burner. For one of our clients, unfortunately, they did miss out. You know, when the searches didn't come back in time, and unfortunately that's gone for them. But the majority, solicitors have worked like 6-7 days a week. You know, I was getting emails at like 8 at night going, I can't believe you're still working.
Our staff have been very committed during this period. It's been crazy. I think also as well, one of the things that we've been trying to educate people with is with the phase out. Actually, if you do miss out, depending on how much you're buying for, you're not actually going to
miss out massively.
Massively. It's not you're going to suddenly be faced with a bill for thousands of pounds. It's going to, you're paying it on that extra 100 above 250. So it's still.
And at the moment, absolutely. I think at the moment, the first time buyers up to that 250. Certainly for us at Ipswich, it's rare for a first time buyer really to stretch themselves past that. It's still getting the majority of the saving, and that's probably where money is the tightest. As you're saying, over that kind of price range, as you say, it is a few thousand, but it's not absolutely. It's not going to break the bank.
It's not going to break the bank. You're not looking
in this market, you've probably got an extra 15-20 grand in your house price anyway. So you know, we can all be greedy about it, but actually, you know, I think loads of people have made so much more money that hopefully, I can't say for everyone, it should be okay.
Do you feel that the first time buyer stamp duty relief will continue?
That's a good question. I think we'd like to see it. You know, any kind of help is necessary. With house prices increasing so much, it is making it more difficult. Not only is it difficult for buyers to actually buy houses, but in some cases they're having to pay over the odds. You know, I remember the last 2 houses we sold on one street alone, both got 5,000 above asking price. So I think that's almost more difficult for first time buyers. So every help, if you can save £2,500, £500, massively think it's going to help first-time buyers, most importantly. I think it's really important to keep that flourish of first-time buyers coming through.
Yeah, definitely keep the market going.
Okay, and what do you think will happen to the property market after the stamp duty holiday is actually over?
Yeah, I mean, I think reflected a bit on that. I don't think it's going to change.
No.
I don't think there'll be loads more stock. I don't think there'll be loads less stock. I think from an estate agency perspective, I'd love more. I want more houses. I want the ability to kind of control the prices a little bit more. They can't keep going up. It's going to get to that point where we're stopping. So I think we'll just see a steady increase in prices. I think we'll see a steady kind of plateau in terms of stock, probably for the later part of this year. We normally, estate agency is very seasonal. I think that's kind of blown out with stamp duty, COVID.
It's like
so it's really hard for us to kind of predict. Normally we can say, we're going to have a lull or we're going to have a spike in this period or that period. So I think that for me, certainly in 16 years, a learning curve. But if I could predict anything, I'd say we'd probably just continue as we are, see a little bit of a steady rise, kind of see this year out, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, in terms of like what we do at Attwells, and me working in the market department, I normally work based on trends. So the trends have come, like since COVID, the trends have completely gone out the window, and it's been really hard. You know, sometimes you talk about that seasonal thing. You know, normally we're looking at the summer period, people try and move in the school holidays, and then you get that September, people try and move before Christmas. And it's going to be really interesting in terms of the September, because that's when the phase out ends.
Yes.
And then it's like, well, what's going to happen? I think that's going to be
interesting to watch.
That's the next interesting milestone for us.
The next milestone hits there.
Definitely. See what the Christmas period brings. It'll be quite an interesting time.
Definitely.
Do you feel that the sort of general tapering down of the stamp duty has worked, or do you think it's not really?
I don't think it has.
No.
Personally, I think it's just made more people want to sell, to get in before this next stamp duty. So you kind of had a list, and I think conveyancers, I'm speaking kind of for you, but you know, essentially you had your list of, okay, these will go through, and all of a sudden we've got another 3 months. People are thinking, I could squeeze in here. So the time hasn't necessarily been reflected to continue the running cases to get them through, and I think that was potentially what it was supposed to be for, give us more time to get those sales that had already sold through, but people were just adding.
The demand.
You know, my properties were adding and adding and adding. Oh, this is subject to, this is subject to, this is subject to. So all I think is just create a hell of a lot more workload.
Oh yeah.
So I'd agree with that. I think it would have been better if they'd just announced a slight increase in the time for people that were already selling.
Exactly.
So give them extra
current
3 or 4 weeks current transactions. And I agree with you. What actually did happen? I mean, it's great for us. It's, you know, the market is fantastic. I'm not complaining.
Definitely more sales. That's good.
The expectations of the people were, we can just do this now and we can make it now.
Well, it's been some positives. You know, a lot of our vendors have saved loads more money. So there is, in their perspective, it's massive high fives. But it has created a lot more work.
It has been created. Conveyancing department can
so give them a couple of days so they can chill out.
Okay, and what issues do you encounter following an agreed sale?
Communication is probably the biggest bugbear. I think if people are transparent from day one, if people have their kind of understanding of how long a process takes, if we kind of guide people through and we, in my opinion, just do a little bit more due diligence, it's rare unless something happens circumstantial to their kind of whole process that something would go wrong. I find that, you know, misinformation through chains is probably the biggest issue. I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's rare that a property really gets hurt in terms of surveys. You know, people are scared of surveys, but you kind of should know what to expect. Unless something gets completely blown out, it's got subsidence, absolutely, you know, you need to get your due diligence done on a process like that. But I think as long as communication from day one, and I think the first 2 weeks of, you know, your sale is probably the most important. Some agents will pick it up right at the end and think, I'll just push it through. But I think as long as the solicitors know the expectation from a client, we communicate a little bit more towards the beginning. We make sure the application for survey goes in, we make sure the application for mortgage goes in, we make sure these searches are ordered. To be honest with you, my sales are going through in like less than 10 weeks on average.
That's so good,
which compared to national stats, it's massively different. And some to say good communication. I mean, I've known Attwells for the last 10 years, so good communication with my conveyancer, my recommended, means a lot. You know, we're at the end of each other's email, we know what's going on. So I think from that perspective, that, you know, keeping that in-house, keeping that kind of relationship going with the solicitors and knowing them makes a massive difference.
Much more smooth.
That's what we try to do. I mean, that's one of our unique selling points is our communication and the fact that we are so we try to use quite simple language, we're so down to earth in terms of a firm,
That's
the
right.
way we relay. It does make a lot of difference, and being able to pick up the phone.
Yes.
It sounds really simple, but it's surprising the amount of other law firms that don't do that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, you still got letters that get sent out rather than emails, and
It's
absolutely,
just
you've got this bit of nervous disposition in there when it goes through, and I think it's just, as you say, simplify it.
Yeah, definitely.
The process, don't get me wrong, you've got to carry out due diligence, and you've got to make sure you spend some time on a file, but simplify it for a client. Let's not get so, pent up with it. And I think if we slow the process down a bit like that, it actually speeds it up long term.
Definitely. We found that, I mean, our sort of average time is 8 to 10 weeks, and a lot of that is due to the fact we're good communicators, and we're using digital as well, which is COVID has
taken so much time.
Technology from our perspective has just gone through the roof with COVID.
Things we're like thinking, we'll do that one day, we'll get to that. We had it in our pipeline of in our terms of business planning. Have like I was about to say like our 3-year plans and now our 1-year plans in terms of digital. It's great because that's the sort of space I work in terms of the marketing side and support our partners in the digital space. I think it's great. We've got some great things coming up to help process and do transactions quicker, which is always a plus.
Definitely.
It's the number one question, how long it takes.
Because people do think, why does it take 20 weeks in some instances? And it is mad, unless you've got a chain of 6-10, it shouldn't be that long. As you say, having 8 weeks, 8 to 10 as an average is great in this market, really, really good.
Okay. And from your side, how has conveyancing and the property process sort of changed in the last decade, do you think?
Interesting question, really, because you'd expect it to kind of progress a lot more than actually if you analyse it and you think, has the process actually changed massively? From my perspective, probably not. Even 16 years, 2005-6 and things, the process is still relatively, in my opinion, the same. You advertise a property, you get it sold, you apply for your mortgage, you do your searches, you do due diligence, and you get it. I think you touched on the previous one, is how can you then use technology to speed up the process. And I think some firms have embraced that technology in the way they can get their searches. Can you fast track them? Can we do email communications? Can we pick up the phone and kind of speed up the transaction that way? So I think naturally it's actually gone longer over the period, but hopefully with the new technology and how people are working now, hopefully we should get that period where we're speeding up now. So I think the change will actually come now.
I do. I think in terms of, again, keep going back to having about marketing, but in terms of other sectors, the law sector are definitely the slowest when it comes to adopting digital advancements. So it'll be interesting to see what the next sort of 3 to 4 years are going to bear on this sector.
I think people always sort of think it's a paper and like a quill, like a feather quill, and like everyone's like, I can't do this.
Everything needs to be wet inked and things like that. There's certainly digital signatures coming out more. I mean, I suppose there's two things: digital signatures and ID verification has probably been the biggest change. And it's allowed the client not to need to come into the shop. Which has sped up that initial process. And if you can speed up that initial process by probably 1 or 2 weeks, you're probably speeding it up by like 4 to 6 weeks at the end.
Yeah, definitely. So things like the SRA are working on that and trying to come up with new ID regimes to help with like the money laundering side of things, and so that will be really interesting to see that how that comes about and how the SRA will sort of look at changing their process too. I think will be another key factor in terms of progressing forward and getting the market moving a lot quicker. So I'm looking forward to it. I just have a really quick question because I'm interested in the fact that you've been in the property game for so long. I wonder how you found COVID, how that's been in comparison to the market crash we had.
Totally different. The market crash for me was a financial bear. Mortgage rates changed, LTVs changed overnight. And the way the market kind of did in 2007 and 8 was so rational. It was, from 1 minute you could get mortgages, I remember back, you could get mortgages for 110%. So, people were buying houses and getting cash back, even on new build, which is, now people are thinking, well, I don't understand that. And then you through the course of, I remember writing, it was a while back, through the course of sort of 6 months to even less than a year, it went to 85 to 80%. So all these first-time buyers were going, they've got credit cards, we've got loans, that's not a problem. You can still get a mortgage. And if you've got no deposit, no problem either. And we'll probably give you some cash back.
Wow.
So, that process of lending money was just beyond really. And the market was going so quick and everyone was buying houses. And then overnight to suddenly go, well, actually, what do you mean? You now need 20, 25 grand. So strip the buyers out. So we had loads of properties in the market and absolutely no buyers. So from that perspective, that's hence why, in my opinion, the property prices just kept going. You've got no buyers and loads of houses. Supply and demand is totally not in the favour of sellers. So that was the reason why the market really sort of went the way it did. COVID is kind of the other way around. We've got no stock. We've all been shut down. Nothing came on the market for 3 months. So when everyone then wanted to buy houses straight after, we had no stock to sell. And that for me has then driven the market in the complete opposite direction. There was talk about, you know, major redundancies and were people going to be in the financial position to then be able to buy. So I think that was kind of the scary part. Are our buyers going to have the financial, you know, basis and backing to be able to buy houses? And I think that was the scary part. Furlough wasn't in. How would mortgage lenders work with furlough? If you'd been on furlough, would they still lend you money? So I think all that uncertainty over that 3 month period where we were sitting back going, what is happening? That was the scary part. But to come back and go, well, actually, do you know what? We'll lend you money still. Yeah, we'll pull the LTVs back a little bit to 90%, 95%, but quite quickly lenders were approaching that 95% again for first time buyers. And now we're not that far past where we were, and we're back up to almost normal lending, but still without the stock levels. So hence why prices have gone through the roof, really.
And so where do you see the future of a estate agency?
Good question. I mean, we're still in our infancy in terms of Jospeh Property Agency. So for us, we've tried to really embrace the new style. So I'm a bit of a traditional guy. I still like an office. I still think a high street brand is always going to be really important. I think there's 2 reasons. One, I think it offers security to a client. You're an established office. You're not just working from kind of your home. But I think it's important to have team camaraderie. We are in sales. And I think where some people who have taken the hybrid model completely on board and doesn't have that network perhaps of support, that's where they're going to fail. It's that day where you're waiting to try and sell a house and new instruction comes on, who you're going to sit next to phone it out, to kind of do what we should do as intrinsic salespeople. So I think that for me is the basis. But I definitely think, you know, 25%, as I've said, my model's kind of 75% old, 25% new. We've touched on the technology. You know, certainly from our perspective, we've embraced technology. We work on laptops, we hot desk. So if it needs to be 6:30, 7 o'clock, someone sends an email, it's really important, open up the laptop, quickly send it back. We get emails to our mobiles, we get call diversions, so we've got this really cool new phone system, so it rings the office 10 seconds, then it rings our mobiles, then it goes to voicemail.
That's so useful, yeah.
So for communication, which was the basis we really wanted to open it up on, is for us, it's just enabled us to do that. So I see that mix, to be honest with you. I see the old-fashioned estate agent that shuts at 6, closes their door, doesn't get anything diverted, doesn't deal with any emails after hours. I get that people shouldn't take work home all the time, and there's that balance. But I also think communication these days is important. You expect it as a client. You know, if you get an email, you know it should go to their phone. You know they should be able to see it, not at 8:30 when you turn up the next day. And I think it should then alleviate some pressure from a client and just make the process smoother. So that's where I really see it. I don't see massive evolutionary changes. I know people are doing hybrid all over the place and working from home and setting up these new kind of self-employed sort of statuses. But I think if you've got a good base, add a little bit of technology to it for the moment, I think that for me is kind of the pinnacle where we're going to be for the next few years.
Oh, great. Well, thanks so much for coming on today.
Pleasure.
Great to hear from you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Right, excellent.
Awesome.
I hope you all enjoyed our first live recorded property pod in our studio here. We're in Audio Labs down in Ipswich. Thank you again for listening. Please remember to subscribe and like and share. That would be great. We're trying to get more listeners, and obviously as we progress, this will get more and more professional. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you for your time.
That's good. Thank you.